Hey everybody, it's Linda with Stamping School. This week I'm playing around with these two standalone dies. They're called Gorgeous Garden dies. They're in the Stampin' Up! Annual Catalog, page 164, I believe. Sometimes we just need something new, and I didn't want another stamp set quite yet, and so I added these just because I love background dies. So you do need a die cutting machine, obviously, to use them. But I'll show you a few ways that I use these. There's no stamp set that goes with them. They're just standalone. There's this really pretty leaf. Can you see all the little etching on there? And let me show you this one. This is the one I did. It's just very simple. I just cut it in white, and I've got a fingerprint here, and I dropped it in my Freesia ink right here. So this may just be my sample, but I put some of this pretty shimmer paper behind it. And I don't remember if this is the copper or if this is the pecan pie shimmer, but I'll find out before I post the recipe for it. But it's just so pretty no matter what color you put underneath it with just plain white. And I just did some black. And then these dies, which I'm still using like crazy, these Nested Essentials. They're my favorite die of the moment. So I just added a little sentiment and some black twine. It's really simple and easy to do. And then this one I had a lot of fun playing with because of the floral aspect of it. One thing that I tried is I thought, well, could we cut this apart? And the floral one is really easy to cut apart. There's like if you just cut it and then just sort of trim around, you can get two pieces out of it. And this was something I played around with, although I didn't finish it. I thought there's some potential here. I glued it down, I cut it out with some silver, and then I just took my marker and just colored in everywhere. So I think this has potential, even though I didn't finish it. You guys can play around with it and see what you think. But it might be a good way to stretch, you know, the foil, which can be a little pricey, and use it for two separate cards. Now this one, I'm going to show you how I'm going to put it together. This is using Lost Lagoon and Pool Party, which layers together so pretty. And I'm just going to add like one little banner down here, and then I'm going to add some twine on it along the edges. So let me show you some tips for cutting this big die. So this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and the die, I wish it was just a little bit smaller. So it is going to cut right here, and it's going to leave a wider edge. I don't know why it's just slightly off, but in this case for this card, I like it because that's how I'm going to glue this panel down right here. So in this case with the twine, it's going to work out perfectly. But for instance, in this one, it's like cut right, almost right to the edge. I mean, you got to really, there's a teeny little relief around it. So if it was just slightly smaller, I think I would like it better, but I do like it. So we're going to cut it like this, and we're going to leave a little bit all the way around it with a wider edge on this side. So if you are a perfectionist and you want it to be exact, you may need to trim this down to layer it on a card. I'm going to tape it right over here on this side, and we're going to run it through the machine, and I'll show you my little trick. So we have our platform, and then the die cutting guy, this thing right here, and then our cutting plate, and this right here. There's not a lot of room between my camera and this, so bear with me. And then my other cutting plate. So you're going to run it through normally, as we normally do, and then I'm going to flip it upside down. All right, so I'm going to run it through. This back, and then flip it upside down and run it through again. This is going to make all the pieces just fall out. Now, if you run it through and then to run it back, it's not the same. Flipping it over on a really big die like this makes all the difference. So they are all cut, and then I take my brush. Before I take it off of here, and I just brush all those out. You definitely need one of these guys. I'll put the link below if you don't have one. But all of the pieces will fall out. And I usually do this over the trash. There is a mat that comes with it, I think, like a little foam mat. But I kind of like to do it in my hands so I can kind of see all the pieces. And then whatever is left, I can just kind of run it through my fingers and get off those last little pieces. So let me show you what the back of this looks like. So all along the back, wherever there was these little white flower centers, I glued down little tiny white pieces of cardstock. So I just added a little bit of glue around the flower openings. So just a little bit of glue, and then I just snipped maybe like a 1/4 inch by maybe a 1/2 inch, and it just goes over top, making sure that none of it pokes out. I did that all over this, so it looks like that. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it didn't take too long. And then that is going to glue down here. And I'm just going to add my glue kind of here and there. Now you could use regular tape also, but this nice border here gets a lot of glue and dot and glue. And I mean, you could do glue dots also, but this is pretty fast and easy and just dotting here and there. There. And that's going on the pool party card. I like it. I like the simplicity of it. I like that it's just the 2 colors, so it's almost monochromatic, keeping it kind of simple. And then I'm going to add a little bit of white twine. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 links of the card. We'll make it go all the way around and put that on the inside. And I'm just going to tie it up at the top. I'm not even going to tie a bow. I think I'm just going to tie a little knot. This would be a good one to do some of those paper beads. We haven't made those in a long time, but this would be really good for that. And then curl them, just because we can. I love how the white twine always curls so pretty. And that's it. I'm just going to keep it simple. Now I've got a little fun thing on the inside. I don't know if you can you see that? Oh my gosh, there it is. It's barely there. So what I did on that, I got my piece of white cardstock for the inside, and I only want my fingers to go where the metal is because we don't want our fingers to press into the ink. But just get a little bit of ink on it. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're just kind of putting just the hint of these flowers on it, and then just press down here and there. And it just gives a tiny little background. Just a different way to use it. Here. And then I can add my sentiment over top of it. So it's just barely there. Somebody might say, oh, it matches the front. I don't know, some people may not notice, but it's kind of fun. And that just goes on the inside. All right, now let me show you something else you can do with this die. This one might be my favorite. And I didn't do any coloring on this. This is all designer paper, and you're never gonna guess which paper it is. This paper that the die is cut from is from this one. This is called Stargazing. It's a really cool paper, and I like it, but I just didn't have a lot of use for it. I mean, You're Out of This World, or maybe a juvenile birthday or something. I mean, I think it's really pretty paper. I love the colors in it, but I didn't have a lot of use for it, for me personally. I don't have astronauts wannabes in my family, so I thought this would be really cool to cut it out of this die. And then all I did was add it right on top of a piece of white cardstock. Now, as an alternative, you could cut it in black, and then you can add it to other cardstock, but I think you can still tell what it is through there. Something about cutting it out this way, you really can't tell that this was all stars and planets. So this one I just cut out of white paper, and then I sponged everywhere and then cut it out. Now you can also cut it first, and then you can be a little bit more strategic about where you're adding your color. So if I did it again, I think I would probably do that. This is the azure right here. So I'm going to add my color on after, and I think you get a little bit better control that way. This is with a lemon lime twist, and you just have to be really careful because the paper can be delicate. So where something is popping up, make sure you're coming down with it so that it doesn't put too much stress on the paper. Just be very, very gentle. These blending brushes are so good for that. Okay, and then a little bit of the fresh freesia, or you could go a bolder color, right? And you can use your sponge daubers if you like. You can get a little bit more control that way too. I think the blending brushes give it a little bit softer look, but you can just do that. Look how pretty that is. Ooh, I should use that too. That's pretty. Hold on, let me add a little bit more of the pink in there because I'm going to use that for something. I don't know what, but for something. And then this one had a little bit of the black because the planet paper had the black in it. So you can go back over with your blends and you can just add a little black where you want it. So just come in, and wherever you think you want a little bit of black, you can just come in and add it, which I kind of like, especially if you're going to be mounting it on black or mounting it on white. Either one, you can really see how pretty that is. Now, what I would do at this point, because this is a nice big 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, you can glue everything down and then take it and trim it down to 3 3/4 by 5. So that's what I did here. This is trimmed down to 3 3/4 by 5. Everything's glued first before I cut the white, and then I layered it on my black cardstock, and then I layered it on my freesia. And then a little bit of stamping. And somebody asked me last time what this was, this little paper clip, and it's just from the office, just my little office drawer right here. See, just a plain little paper clip. I do this a lot. It's just a good way to add ribbon or twine or something, and depending on how much room you have, you can put the big part on top, or in this case, I'm doing the little one on top. It just gives an extra little something that hangs on there. And then I splattered some Wink of Stella on it just for an extra little bit of sparkle. See, I have to say this is my favorite from here to here. But give these dies a try. I am really liking them. I think this one would be good for fall also with the leaves. And it's just a way just to add a little extra something to your stamping stash. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. See it, learn it, stamp it.